In the depths of the laboratory, everything was silent, shrouded in the darkness of an artificial hibernation. Behind the metal doors lay a project that would change the fate of humanity. The floor was covered with sterile white tiles, but beneath this cleanliness was a place where the boundaries of nature and technology were being pushed. Capsules hummed faintly with bright green lights, and the beings inside breathed steadily in their deep slumber. The fusion of machines and organic matter was being created far from the eyes of the world. Dr. Oren stood in front of the control panel. He looked like an ordinary scientist, but there was a glint of obsession in his eyes. He was leading a project that would either save or destroy humanity. He glanced at the capsules. Those who lay inside had once been born as humans. Now, they were being transformed into something more. "Let's begin," he whispered to himself. He tapped a few buttons on the screen, and one of the capsules slowly began to open. Cold mist escaped as the chamber released its contents. The figure inside stirred. Drayvon opened his eyes. The first thing he felt was cold, but it wasn't external. It came from within. He tried to move his body, but something felt off. He struggled to control his muscles and realized they no longer belonged entirely to him. Slowly, he looked at his arms. The metallic sheen made his eyes blink. His skin had been replaced by something far beyond human flesh. A shiver ran through him, but logic quickly kicked in. He was much stronger this way. When he took a step, the soft mechanical sound from his legs disturbed him, but his movements were steady and powerful. "What am I?" he thought. He remembered being human, but looking at his body, he began to question that. "Welcome, Drayvon," a voice called out from behind him. Dr. Oren smiled as if he were experiencing a long-awaited moment. "You are now the perfect fusion of man and machine. We combined human intellect with the strength of machines. You are a biomechanical warrior." Drayvon tried to process these words. His mind struggled to grasp this new reality. "Why me?" he asked, his voice deep and distorted. Even his vocal cords had changed. "You had the highest potential in combat. Now, you have surpassed the limits of humanity. The fate of the world and the galaxy rests in the hands of people like you," Dr. Oren said, his voice carrying a tone of holy purpose. Drayvon looked around again. In the same capsule room, there was another figure. "And what about them?" he asked. Dr. Oren's gaze shifted to the second capsule. "That's Vesper. Like you, she is a warrior. Together, you will lead the greatest transformation in human history." Drayvon approached Vesper's capsule. The figure inside, like him, was equipped with mechanical limbs, but her face still bore human features. For a moment, he saw her eyes flicker, and then the capsule unlocked. Vesper inhaled sharply as soon as her eyes opened, sitting up quickly and scanning her surroundings. Her movements were different from Drevon's. She seemed to adapt immediately to her new body. Her eyes were sharp and focused. "What kind of hell is this?" she muttered, her voice almost a growl. Dr. Oren approached her, still smiling confidently. "This isn't hell. This is the future of humanity. You can now think and move at the speed of machines, but your intelligence is still your own." Vesper took a deep breath and looked at Drayvon. In that moment, they understood each other completely. They were no longer just human. They were something more, biomechanical warriors created to save humanity. But this new reality left a void inside them. They were caught between human emotions and the cold logic of machines. "What do you expect us to do?" Vesper asked, staring directly at Dr. Oren. "Soon you'll be tested in a real mission," Dr. Oren responded, his voice growing serious. "Enemies across the galaxy are trying to exploit humanity's weaknesses. But you've overcome those weaknesses. You are the first beings to surpass human limitations. The battles ahead will show you who you truly are." As Drayvorn listened to Dr. Oren's words, a sense of unease grew within him. Was he fighting for humanity, or was he merely following a path laid out by his creators? He closed his eyes and tried to recall his old life, but it was fading fast. Only war remained. Vesper, on the other hand, reacted differently. There were traces of determination on her face. This new power gave her the ability not only to fight for humanity, but also to shape her own destiny. "The wars have already begun," she said, glancing at Drayvorn. "Let's see who survives." Drayvorn met Vesper's gaze, and in that moment they both understood. They weren't just soldiers. They would fight for humanity, but they would also be fighting against their own humanity. In the depths of space, amidst the dim lights of distant stars, a ship sped forward, carrying a silent but palpable tension. Despite the quiet inside, the crew's heartbeats could almost be felt. Drayvorn could sense the vibrations in the ship's hull. Alongside the metallic sensations, his human side still felt the excitement brought by the unknown. He didn't know exactly what they were about to face, but he was certain of one thing: this would be their first real test. Inside the ship, there was a faint hum. Vesper sat directly across from him, her eyes fixed on the data screen in front of her. The bright blue lights highlighted her sharp features, and her expression betrayed no hesitation or worry. As if she could read Drevon's thoughts, she lifted her head and looked at him. "First contact is imminent," Vesper said, her voice cold but resolute. "Are you ready?" Drayvorn nodded silently. On the outside, he appeared calm, but the tension inside him was undeniable. Both his human and mechanical sides were filled with the thrill of the impending battle. As the ship neared the combat zone, his heart rate accelerated. But while his human side buzzed with excitement, his machine brain remained analytical. "It's just a test," he muttered to himself. Yet both parts of him knew this was much more. The future of humanity would be shaped by the outcome of this first encounter. As the ship entered the atmosphere, the change in pressure was felt briefly inside. Though Drayvorn sensed the vibrations minimally, the ship's speed and landing maneuvers were so smooth that it felt like they were gliding through the air like a bird. On the data screens, images of the enemy outpost appeared. They would land near an entry point to the complex. "Prepare for landing," came the announcement. When the ship's doors opened, the harsh, cold air rushed in. As a sharp wind swirled around them, Drayvorn and Vesper moved quickly. They had gone through countless simulations during training, but this time it was real. As they stepped onto the ground, the hardness of the terrain echoed under their metal feet. Drayvorn immediately began scanning his surroundings. His biomechanical implants could instantly survey distant areas. Everything seemed cold and abandoned. But for a brief moment, he sensed movement in the distance. The enemy was somewhere out there. "We've got contact," he said, his voice reaching Vesper through her comms. Vesper nodded calmly and moved in the direction of the signal. "I see it," she replied, her mechanical scanners active as well. The massive structure at the entrance of the alien base was their first target. As the pair advanced cautiously, they noticed movement in the shadows. The first attack happened in an instant. Out of the darkness, an alien creature lunged. With his incredible reflexes, Drayvorn deflected the creature's claws without hesitation. The alien stood nearly 2 meters tall, with a large, muscular form. Its dark purple skin was covered in bioluminescent patterns that shimmered in the dim light. Its eyes gleamed with a savage intelligence. Its claws looked deadly, and it launched another swift attack. Drayvorn didn't back down. He tightened his metallic muscles and grabbed the creature's claw. It was strong, A normal human would have been knocked to the ground by such a blow, but Drayvorn was not an ordinary human. He countered, trying to locate the creature's weak point. He focused on the small slits around the reddish glow in its eyes. With a swift motion, he drove his energy blade into the creature's head. It let out a piercing scream and collapsed. Meanwhile, Vesper was engaged with two creatures at once. Her fighting style was more agile. She leaped onto the first creature, delivering a powerful blow with her mechanical legs. In seconds, she landed a heavy strike to its chest, knocking it to the ground. Quickly withdrawing, she dodged the second creature's attack. In a flash, she drew her energy pistol, aimed at the creature's head, and took it down with a single shot. But this was only the first wave. After the fallen creatures, more were coming. Emerging from the shadows and slipping through the walls, the alien attackers continued their assault on the human-machine duo. Drayvorn and Vesper stood shoulder to shoulder, fending off the relentless waves of enemies. When a creature rushed toward Drayvorn, he charged forward with equal speed. Grabbing the creature with his metallic arms, he used all his strength to pin it to the ground. But the creature didn't relent. It slashed at Drevon's arm with its claws, but it couldn't pierce the metal. Drayvorn twisted the creature's neck, snapping its head off. Fluids sprayed everywhere as he turned his attention to the next target. Vesper, on the other hand, faced a larger, more formidable creature. This enemy, with its longer arms and more advanced armor, appeared smarter and deadlier. It attacked with immense force, but Vesper swiftly dodged. As the creature's claws tore into the ground, Vesper quickly circled behind it and delivered a powerful blow to its spine. Her metallic fist broke through its defenses, and the creature collapsed. But the enemies didn't stop. More and more creatures, like killing machines, continued to emerge from every direction. Drayvorn and Vesper fought on like machines themselves, but there was an ongoing battle within them to hold onto their humanity. As the rhythm of the fight intensified, their machine minds began to dominate. Every strike, every block, was a fight for survival. The biomechanical bodies of the creatures were no match for them. After a while, the pair showed no signs of fatigue, defeating their enemies one by one. But there was something they couldn't ignore. With each wave, the creatures were getting stronger and more resilient. Drayvorn noticed a small wound on his shoulder. It was only a scratch, but it was a sign that things were becoming more difficult. Vesper, after taking down another creature, tried to catch her breath. "It's not over yet," she said, her eyes locked on another movement coming from the darkness. Drayvorn squinted as he scanned the threats ahead. "This is just the beginning," he muttered. The end of the battle was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They were a fusion of human and machine, and this war would define their existence. Drayvorn and Vesper stood among the corpses of their enemies, catching their breath while scanning their surroundings. The alien creature's attacks seemed to have ceased for the moment, but this silence might only be the precursor to an even greater danger. The mission wasn't over. Strange sounds echoed through the ruins, signaling the approach of a new threat. "It's not over yet," Vesper said, her eyes fixed on the movement in the distance. The calmness in her voice betrayed the storm of emotions within. It was no longer just about survival. She was starting to question the meaning of this war. Beyond these creatures, there was a greater purpose, fighting as both human and machine. But who were they really fighting for? Drayvorn glanced at Vesper. "This is more than just a battle," he said quietly, voicing his thoughts out loud. Just then, a deep rumble from beneath the ground put them both on high alert. Something massive was moving below, rapidly approaching. "What the hell is that?" Drayvorn asked, but the answer soon presented itself. The ground split open as a colossal creature emerged from the earth. Much larger than the others, it had 4 arms and a massive bulk. Its thick, armor-like shell looked impenetrable by any normal weapon. The crimson glow in its eyes revealed a terrifying intelligence, far more dangerous than the previous enemies. "This must be their leader," Vesper muttered as she analyzed the creature. Her mechanical eyes searched for weak points, but this beast seemed to have none. With a roar, the creature lunged at them. Despite its size, it moved with incredible speed, swinging all four arms toward Drayvon. He barely dodged in time, but the creature's strike left a crater in the ground, sending debris flying. Drayvon moved with calculated precision, circling the creature and looking for an opening with his energy blade. But the beast's movements were unpredictable, each attack using one set of arms while defending with the others. Vesper quickly joined the fight, darting around behind the creature and landing a powerful blow to its legs. But the creature swiftly turned, swiping at Vesper with its claws and sending her flying. She crashed to the ground several meters away, but immediately got back up. Her new body no longer felt pain, a small advantage in this relentless battle. "We have to hit it together," Drayvon shouted, realizing that breaking through the creature's defenses would require a coordinated strike. At the same time, Vesper nodded, and they both charged, waiting for a moment of weakness. Drayvon darted to the left, slashing at the creature's thick armor with his energy blade. At the same time, Vesper distracted it from the front, gathering her strength and delivering a powerful punch to the creature's torso. The beast staggered briefly but quickly recovered, swinging all four arms wildly in retaliation. Drayvon spotted a small crack in the creature's armor. "I see a weak spot," he yelled. While Vesper continued to engage the creature, Drayvon grabbed a piece of debris from the ground and hurled it at the beast. The distraction worked, and Drayvon seized the opportunity, driving his energy blade deep into the creature's weakened spot. The blade pierced through its armor, and the creature let out a deafening roar that shook the skies. But it wasn't dead yet. In a frenzy, the creature flailed its four arms toward Vesper. She narrowly dodged but took a hit to her arm, leaving a deep gash in her mechanical limb. Despite the damage, Vesper didn't feel any pain. She quickly regained her footing and launched herself back into the fight. Drayvon could see the creature weakening. This had to be the final blow. Together, they surrounded it. Vesper attacked its lower body with a rapid series of strikes, destabilizing the beast. Meanwhile, Drayvon focused on its cracked chest, lunging with his energy blade once again. This time, the blade penetrated deep, and the creature collapsed with a final, agonizing scream. Its massive body fell to the ground, motionless. For a moment, silence fell. Only the heavy breathing of the defeated creature could be heard, but even that soon faded away. Vesper glanced at the damage to her arm, but saw it wasn't critical. "Did we do it?" she asked. Drayvon looked down at the massive corpse before them. "Yes," he said, but his voice was uncertain. "This was just one battle, but more will come." As Drayvon and Vesper stood among the fallen enemies, the same question echoed in both of their minds. What were they really fighting for? These two warriors, once human, had surpassed the limits of humanity, but they were starting to understand the true cost of their transformation. It wasn't just physical. It was their souls that were being changed by this war. Walking back toward their ship in silence, they could feel the growing tension between the machine and human parts of themselves. They would prepare for the next battle, but now they knew it would not just be a fight against the enemy, it would be a fight within themselves. This war, stretching across the galaxy, was becoming something more, a battle that would question the very essence of what it meant to be human. And by the end of it all, how far would the union of man and machine go? I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye. See you in the next story.